Okay, now I'm live. I'm going to be messing. This is the second attempt. I'll be messing with this, and I hate it. Ah, okay, copy after you go live. Is this working now? I didn't click go live anywhere. All right, I'm assuming this is working now. Maybe I'll get a Instagram alert. I really hate having to use technology like this. I wish it did it for me. Am I live? Anybody tell me I'm live? I don't see that I'm live. Hey, what's up? Welcome aboard, Arkansas. I'm trying to go live on Instagram as well, and I'm not sure if it's working or not. Sorry, boys. Okay. Hopefully that's working over there. I'll toggle back and see. This one's more of a public service announcement, and that's why I wanted to go onto Instagram so more people would see it than just the guys that come over here. You guys may have noticed over the past year or so. Brown, what's up? Are you fishing? Nice. Good to see you, my friend. You may have noticed, like I said, I haven't been fishing very much, and there's a reason behind that. I have had terrible health issues that no one could help me with. And I have notes here on my pad that I'm going to reference to. I just got the blood work in yesterday, and I have what's called alpha-Gal syndrome. And alpha-Gal syndrome is, let's see, I'll just read. It's caused by tick bites, especially the Lone Star tick. Your immune system develops antibodies against a sugar molecule, and I guess that molecule is called the alpha-Gal, found in mammals: beef, pork, lamb, venison, dairy, and gelatin. It makes you allergic to red meat, dairy, and any hidden mammal ingredients in any product. The tricky part about it is the reactions are really weird, because you can eat, say, pork, like say bacon at breakfast, and you won't notice it until 6 o'clock at night. Sometimes your reactions will be delayed. The symptoms vary from person to person. You'll get hives, itching, flushing. You'll get red palms and feet. I don't know if you can see there, but I have very red feet, and I've had it crept up into my palms about a year ago. You'll have nausea. You'll have abdominal pressure. You'll have diarrhea. You'll have swellings of your feet and hands. You'll have low blood pressure and dizziness. You'll get anaphylaxis. I've been released from 3 different emergency rooms with anaphylaxis with no help. They never found it. I've lost thousands of dollars to the emergency room. I have seen every single specialist in Central Florida and a few before I moved, because this has been going on since before I moved in Georgia. Basically, I've been living in a state of allergic reaction for at least half of a decade, with absolutely no help from any medical professional, and basically figured this stuff out on my own with the help of ChatGPT and me just basically. All right. So it started. I started feeling bad in Georgia, but it wasn't as bad. So you just kind of feel cruddy, whatever. Maybe it's old age, maybe you feel like you're allergic to something like, ragweed or whatever. But progressively it's gotten worse and worse and worse on me, to the point now where it's affecting joints. It feels like I have arthritis. I actually do have a rheumatoid arthritis marker that's popped up. So I'm thinking it's probably sending me towards a rheumatoid arthritis diagnosis. It's gotten to the point where I can't fish. I can't handle the heat. I can't hold the rod from pain. It's been hard, boys. It took my fishing from me. And I don't want it to take it from you. Thanks, Mike. No, there's not. It's permanent. But I have to say, I'm taking a few days off work. I had a real bad reaction, and that's the funny thing too, because I got real strict. I was getting no help from any medical professionals whatsoever. One of them, it does look like it's on Instagram. Good. One of them in particular told me to go see a psychiatrist. And I left him immediately. That was my first doctor here in Florida, because I knew for a fact that what was happening was not I was not making it up. There's too many physical problems. I had would wake up sometimes when you get into a bad allergic reaction, your chest and your neck and head will kind of it's almost like you're sitting in a vibrating chair. I'd be getting that. I was down the rabbit hole on the internet thinking I had Parkinson's, thinking I had multiple sclerosis. It hits on all these same types of symptoms. So, and then I would have brief times when I would be fine. So over the course of the last 3 years since I've been living in Florida, I started fasting and I started exercising a little more. You can tell I've lost some weight. I've been trying to eat right, but I was still feeling bad some days and progressively still getting worse. And it's because it would be the days that I had a hamburger, but I'd have a hamburger, and it would be, if you had it at 12, it'd be 8 at night when you're getting the reaction, maybe right after you ate dinner. So you're not even be able to track what meal it was because of the delayed reaction of the alpha gal protein stuff. Yeah, Brown, I'm an involuntary vegan now is how that works. I can't have anything with milk, dairy, animal, anything with fur. Can't have it. I can still have fish. I can still have chicken. I can still have turkey, but anything from mammals is a no-go. No goat, no pork, no beef. I can remember when we did the electrofishing survey on the pond, Garrett came through, from Texas. And we went out that night before, just chit-chatting, got to meet his dad, came with him. And that was a great experience. And we went to the Ted's Montana Grill over there. And I had bison, they had like a meatloaf special on the bison. And that next day during the electrofishing survey, I was about to die. Literally, I was having anaphylactic shock. I was having difficulty breathing. I was having difficulty staying conscious. I didn't say anything to anyone. I figured if I just ball till you fall, right? I'd already been to so many doctors at that point. No one could help me. I'm like, I'm just going to fall over. And if I fall over, they'll take me to the hospital and maybe figure it out. I don't know. It never wiped me all the way out like that, but it's put me in quite a bit of medical debt. And it's been, ivermectin, I think, is for parasites. This isn't parasitic, I don't believe. This is some sort of, I'm not educated enough. I'll run it by the doctor though. Jackson, thanks for that. But it looks like I'm kind of stuck with a red meat allergy for the rest of my days, which, honestly is kind of a relief. It sounds terrible, but when you're looking down Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis as diagnoses, this is not nearly as bad. I'm actually pretty happy. Yeah, it's changed my immune system and not in a good way. Right now, almost eating anything, I had a bad reaction. Who knows what I got into that had some kind of animal protein. And I didn't even know, when you don't even know that you're allergic to it, right? You eat stuff, but it's also hidden. Like one of the things that I noticed that, just in trial and error of nearly dying of anaphylactic shock was that Benadryl helped me. Took a pill one time. I was like, okay, I feel a bit better. I started getting hives after red meat. That was the clue that really got me got Chat GPT onto the diagnosis that was correct. And actually, the last doctor that I went to, here's another point. I specifically went in and asked her, told her what I found on here, told her I was getting hives after I ate red meat, and said, I need an alpha gal test. And she said, well, we don't do that here. She's being real snotty. and sent me to get blood work, and they tested me for Lyme disease, not for alpha gal. So the Lyme, you can have alpha gal and not have Lyme disease. You're going to get very similar symptoms to Lyme. You can get very similar symptoms to everything. Thanks, Arkansas. Appreciate you, bro. Yeah, I'm happy, man. I know, I mean, it's a dietary change and a lifestyle change, but you know, I'm not getting moped out just yet, boys. And I was on the fence about saying anything at all, but then I thought, no, this is too important because all of us are outside and we're all, you know, we could all get bit by a tick. Anyone can get bit by a tick, you know, especially people like me, which was really disappointing. And for the, you know, talking about the healthcare that I received, how do you know? You're supposed to know about this stuff. I'm outside all the time. How is this not something that's in a screening for guys like us all the time? You should get this checked every year. You do not want to spend a half a decade like I spent, boys. I can promise you, it was hell. I'm feeling great today, though. I'm on steroids, and I just got out of my Benadryl nap, and the swelling's gone down. I can breathe again. My stomach, it feels normal again. And I've spent the last 3 days not eating things that trigger my sensitivities. I'm just clicking back over here. Oh, there it is. I'm not live. Well, now I'm live on Instagram. So I'm gonna redo that, fellas, since it was just us. Okay. Alpha gal syndrome is what I came to talk to everybody about. And I'm just going to read this again. And I want to break this down because we're all sportsmen and we're all at a much greater risk at getting bit by a tick. I don't know if you guys have noticed on my page, I haven't been fishing very much. And it's because I couldn't. I've been really sick. And I've been to the doctor. I'm several $1,000s in medical debt. And they couldn't help me. I've been released from the emergency room with breathing difficulties. I've had bad allergic reactions to lots of different things, and no one could ever give me an answer until yesterday. I got my blood work back, and I have alpha gal syndrome. So I wanted to come on here and tell you guys about my experience and everything that happened so you can be ahead of it. You don't have to spend half a decade sick like me, because these medical folks are going to fail you. They're not prepared for what they failed me completely. All right. So alpha gal syndrome and what sportsmen need to know. I'm just going to read from my tablet real quick. It's caused by tick bites, especially the Lone Star tick. Your immune system develops antibodies against a sugar molecule that's called alpha gal, found in all mammals, beef, pork, lamb, venison, and dairy. And it's also in gelatin. It's also in the capsules, any capsule form, liquid cap form. Those capsules will make you allergic, or you'll have allergic reaction to that. That one really got me bad. It's different from different types of allergies because your reaction times are delayed from 3 to 8 hours after eating, and sometimes even more than that. Sometimes I'd be like 12 hours after I ate something, I would have a reaction to it. Your symptoms are going to vary from person to person. It can hit multiple systems. You'll have skin hives, itching, flushing, red palms and feet. You'll have nausea, abdominal pressure, and diarrhea. You'll have swelling in your hands and feet. You'll have low blood pressure and dizziness. That low blood pressure and dizziness will also hit you in the heat way harder. It's one of the reasons I haven't been able to fish. I can't handle the heat as well as I used to. I can't speak as well as I used to. I can't think as well as I used to. I make a lot of weird, stupid mistakes now that was not normal for me. A friend of mine that I used to work for, we noticed it. I would be making just dumb errors at work, like overlooking the simplest things. All alpha gal. And then, of course, the breathing in your chest and your throat, tightness in your chest, that's called anaphylaxis, and that's extremely dangerous. I actually went to the emergency room with that 3 different times over the last 24 months. and I've been hooked up machines. They ran blood work. They ran the dye in your blood and looked at everything. They didn't find anything and released me from the hospital. And I was having an allergic reaction, having anaphylaxis, and couldn't breathe. And they just let me go. You'll be misdiagnosed for years, and you'll be, you know how that goes. You don't want to go to the doctor repeatedly around here. That's a recipe for going broke. Let's see. Highest risk: hunters, anglers, hikers, farmers we're all at the highest risk for exposure. And that's why I'm coming on and going live on both platforms. It says here, use all the tick, use clothing. I found some clothing that's got the tick stuff like already in the threads, so you don't have to spray yourself. Insect shield on Amazon. And I've been using that stuff, and it works pretty good. I have to have an epinephrine injector on me now, because if my breathing gets bad again, I got to pop the epinephrine. And like I said, I didn't go live on Insta. I've talked about it once to these guys on YouTube because I didn't click the right button to go live on Instagram. So I'm kind of repeating myself again for the Instagram folks, because I just want to get this out there that your medical professional is going to miss this, just like mine did. And why I'm not going to call any names, why they don't have this, their job to know this stuff at the money that they make. Yeah. It's their job to know this stuff, and they don't know it. I almost died a couple times. So you have to, that's why I'm doing it, to let all you guys know. Yeah, Mike's looking it up on here on YouTube. He's gone in 10 years, the confirmed cases rose from 12 to 34,000. Yeah, man. It's something to be aware of. And I just want you guys to be super careful, be active, be proactive in your tick repellent. It's super important. I've even got a blood marker now for rheumatoid arthritis. My hands will ache like really bad. It's like I said, it's almost taken my fishing away from me. Although I feel like I've turned a corner now that I know what causes these reactions and causes the problems. It looks like that if I could keep, and if you guys have been noticing me itching my nose, it's the histamine. Doing long-term speaking is triggering a histamine reaction in me. And if you've been watching me on YouTube, you've been watching me rub my nose like this every time I come on here. It's alpha-gal. Yeah, Brown. They didn't help at all. But it's terrible. And we need, and for the Instagram folks, I'm going to click over to Instagram. It's on a delay over there. There may be some questions. Hey, what's up, everyone? Thanks for joining in. I'm just doing a little public service announcement. I don't see any questions over here yet. So yeah, it's been a rough road, but I feel like I've turned a corner, and things are going to get better, and I'll get back on the boat again. I'll be able to not be having a 5-year or 10-year, however long I've been going through this allergic reaction. There's a click there. There's probably a question here. I hate how this works, where I have to toggle back and forth between these two pages, and one's on a delay. It's kind of a hassle, but we need to be aware of alpha-gal, and you need to get yourself, I think it'd probably be a good idea just to work that into, and if your annual physical, just say, hey, I'm an outdoorsman or outdoors person, outdoors woman, and make extra sure that you get on top of this quickly. You don't want to have what happened to me happen to you. So that's my public service announcement today. Yes, Michael, I have lost a lot of faith in all doctors. I said, you get paid the kind of money you get paid and leave me hanging like that. You don't deserve to make that money. And the rudeness And even, all right, so even the last doctor that I went to, I figured this out on my own, by the way. No one helped me with this. Me and Chat GPT figured it out. And once the hive started getting really bad after eating red meat, that's when I do that. That's when Chat GPT was like, you've got to have alpha gall. I mean, there's really no way you develop a red meat allergy any other way. So I went to the doctor and I brought my tablet and I said, here's my symptoms. And it says clearly here, I need to get checked for alpha gall. I think I'm allergic. I think I got bit by a tick and I'm allergic to red meat now. And she gave me a lot of attitude because, you know, she's the doctor, I guess, and I'm not to tell her what to do. So she did write up blood work, and I did go get a blood work test. But when I got those results back, there was no alpha gall test. They tested me for Lyme disease, which I asked. I was making the assumption that Lyme disease, you had to have Lyme disease to have alpha gall, and you do not. You don't have to have Lyme disease to have alpha gall. And also the blood test that they gave me clearly said on the blood test that if this isn't a new thing, like a new bite for Lyme disease, that it might show up negative for Lyme disease. So it's very possible I do have Lyme disease and they just can't seem to find it. That being said, the alpha gall will test in your blood, and you know, you can get ahead and be aware you're going to be allergic. You're going to get itchy palms from eating bacon. It just depends on what you eat. And I think everybody's body's different, but it'll make you highly allergic to a lot of different things. Like I said, even including the capsules that you can take for pills, or you got to go vegan on all your, anything you put in your body's got to be vegan. Can have any animal stuff. So like no cheeses, no milk, ice cream, that's all done. You know, no, you can't have any of that. Okay. So I think that's what I had to say about that. Let me double check Instagram. Thanks for joining everyone over here on Instagram. I don't see any questions from you guys, so I'm going to go back to YouTube. All right. Enough about that garbage. Get yourself checked out. Be safe. I got a shout out today from the boys over at Science of the Strike, and they have fired up a new YouTube and Spotify channel, and I really like what they got going over there. I think it was a smart move what they did. Sorry, I'm sick. So Science of the Strike guys are going and taking all of the research that we all should have be reading and keeping up with, you know, fishery science research, and they're breaking it down, and they're doing a podcast together about how all that relates back to fishing. And they said that my page helped them kind of make the decision on the way they wanted to go. And I think that's really smart. I think that was a sharp way to do that. Taking the research studies and then elaborating on them for the bass fishermen. And their latest one is about bluegill. I just watched it. It's really good. The guys did a great job. And with that in mind, I'm going to kind of elaborate on what they were talking about on there. I don't want to take away from their pod, so you guys go listen to it. But one of the studies and one of the things they talked about was how bass get keyed in on not only the length of the fish, but also the depth of the fish. And we've touched on it here before, but I think they did a better job than I did with the actual research, you know, breaking that down. So that's worth the watch, definitely, just for that. But all their programs are really good. Those guys are doing a great job. But on that one specific idea, I got the Bell's gill right here. Right. So the depth, the thickness, both ways, you know, the depth of the lure matters a great deal. And like I said, we've known that, right? But they break down a study where how the bass will key in on certain prey items, and how understanding the prey items and matching the shape of those prey items. Maybe you shift from the bellows gill to the bellows shad because it's a little narrower profile. That matters a great deal. Maybe the bass they did a good job explaining this too, where there was one study that showed how the hunting, how bass's hunting changes depending on the density of the cover, whatever they're in, weeds, whatever. Bass will go more from like open water, pack feeding type behavior to ambush prey style, and sitting in one place. And that's something that I can definitely attest to in my experience, because when the weeds get thick in the ponds and small lakes, you'll see the bass will set up to the outside edge. We've discussed hydrilla many times and how it chokes out the edge. It reduces the amount of huntable space for those bass to go up and hunt. They're not going up into those thick weed mats to hunt. They're sitting on the outside edge and ambushing, because they can't hunt in dense weeds like that. They can't get in there and do it. So it gives a tremendous advantage to the bait in there. And then you'll get a large population of bass set up on that weed line. So when, as a biologist, goes out there and says, okay, you've got too many weeds, it's about to kill everything in the lake due to biological oxygen demand at night, we have to reduce the alive plants in here. They're getting to the point where they're too dangerous. They're going to kill everything in it. Most guys don't even know that fact. They think the more weeds, the better. And that's not true. Your plants can kill your lake. So you'll remove that weed line with the treatment. You spray the weeds away and you open that area back up. And now you don't have every bass in the lake sitting on that outside weed line waiting. And it changes how many fish you can catch. And from a fisherman's perspective, it looks like you've ruined the fishing in the lake, because they used to go out there and do real good. Now they don't. And they touched on that. And I just wanted to add that little additional idea there about the weeds can kill your fish. And that's why we have to control them. Otherwise, we wouldn't do that. If it was totally beneficial for the fishery to have a bunch of plants, I'd just throw a bunch of plants in there. Did you guys see the fish that Clint sent back in from yesterday? Him and his boys went fishing, and they had it's a 19 and some change bass going at 5'1". Looks like a unit. Fish are growing well in the pond, looking great. I'm going to click back over to Instagram real quick, boys. Hold on one moment. Hey, Science of the Strike Drone, I'm talking about you, boys. I gave you a little shout out there. I don't know if the live's on. There's only 3 folks over here. I'm going to go back to the big crowd of 6 people. So I'm not going to feel too self-conscious anymore about scratching my nose like this, since I know it's a histamine release from speaking. And you guys will be able to gauge how much better I feel from this alpha gall when this crap stops. But just be careful, boys. Be careful. All right, let me scroll back and look for any questions. I might have missed something on the feed here. Yeah, I'm going to involuntary vegan now, fellas. I'm going to have to eat like sprouts and spinach, and it's all right. Maybe I'll live longer. I'm having a fit with this stupid scratching. I don't see too many questions, and I don't really have too much. Check out Science of the Strike. Hey, John, what's going on, man? Thanks for joining in. Ian, over on Instagram. All right. We seem to be cool. Shout out to the boys at G-Crack for all the support over the years. I certainly appreciate that, and I will continue to promote their products as they do catch fish very well. But just keep that in mind. The size and shape, you need to match, literally match the hatch. The size and shape of your bait matters a great deal. And those boys at Science of the Strike did a good breakdown on how all that works. Oh, I didn't make notes. Let me see if I missed anything. Oh, yeah. One more thing. A little juice for you boys. A little juice. All right. So with this bait in particular, this is the 5.8. Got a little technique, and they touch on that as well. It was good. They talk about how bluegill swim and how they're set up to maneuver quickly, because it's to their advantage to be able to feed, and then what they feed on, which is pretty much everything. But I've talked about it before, but I'm just going to wrap up, and this is killing me, so I'm gonna get off. But all right, put your bellows gill out, right? Let it fall to the bottom. And they said it on Science to Strike. We all have a tendency to just kind of, maybe you hop it, or maybe you yo-yo it get a little more, or maybe you straight drag it, right? But you're truly not mimicking bluegill behavior. And I know this is right. Sorry. Because I've had some huge fish trigger on this pattern. This is one of my favorite patterns for fishing the 5.8. All right, throw it out. Don't let it go too far. Because you can eat that thing a mile. It's heavy. Don't want to do that. Keep your cast short so you get your good hook sets. Don't get so much line stretch in there, but let it fall. Be ready, because a lot of times they'll grab it on that initial fall, and it'll just keep falling. You cast it and it goes, and then it's going. And you've got a fish on, because they literally just grabbed it right then. But assuming they don't grab it on the initial fall and it goes to the bottom. Now I'm on my 8-foot stick. I'm on my Tranx power handle, right? I'm on my glide bait rig, because I'm swinging an 8/0 hook. Here, I got one right here. Show you what I use. Either one of these beasts, right? Or one of these owners. And I personally like the Colorado blade a little bit better than the Willow, but I'll have that rigged up. And with your bellows gill, you want to use the screw lock. You're going to get a lot more. The plastic will last a lot longer. All right, so you let that go down to the bottom, and then I keep my hands low, and I keep the rod tip pointed right at the bait, but I'm using the power handle, and I'm whacking it like a glide bait, and I'm moving it. I am really bringing it, boom, 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 as fast as I can bring it. I'm adding a little bit of a pause in there, but it's very much like, it's just a more aggressive glide bait technique. And instead of your glide bait up here gliding, we're doing it like this, right? Along the bottom. So it's the same idea of the entrapped, bait at the surface, like when you're fishing bucas, bull shad, or how Mike likes to fish, how we've discussed many times. I'm just doing it down here at the bottom and getting real aggressive with the reel to get that snapping, darting, jerking, mimicking of how bluegill actually swim. And I don't think you can be too aggressive with it. And I think you could probably do rod sweeps too, but I've been more successful using the reel and keeping my hands in position than I have been sweeping the rod. But several times I've caught a really big fish being super aggressive on the reel, and remember that, because yeah, man, that's the 10/0. That was that. I don't usually use the 10/0 on the 5/8. That's the I had another bait that I put that in. It was a lake chub sucker mimic that I picked up that I haven't fished with yet, because we do have lake chub suckers out here. Oh, Mike's got a question. Sorry, Mike. He's got a 20 1/4 inch large, 4.5 pounds, is that a good weight? Does it look healthy? Does anybody have their chart? I think that's a good question for the chat. Let me go back and check. Instagram here, and I'll go on something crazy down here too. I'll just bring up one moment. Oh, here's what your feet will look like when you have alpha-gal. It's not comfortable. Okay, and here is all our charts, right? So how I design my chart is if we look right there at the 20 and that 3.88, and then go out to 21 at 4.5. You see that right there? Okay, so I'd split the difference between those two numbers. You did say, oh, it's 20 and a quarter. So I'd split the difference between the 20 and the 21. 3.8 and 4.5. So let's just call it about 4 pounds, maybe 4.1 pounds would be about 100% relative weight for that fish. And there's another chart on my page. You can get, this is just the charts that I use. Oh, and I'm actually looking at the wrong one. Sorry. I'm looking at the smallmouth. Check that. A 20-inch largemouth should be 4.5. And a 21-inch largemouth should be 5.3. I was looking at the smallmouth line. And again, I'm blaming it on alpha-gal, boys. That's my new excuse for everything. So a 20-inch fish, you're probably looking at 100% relative weight at about 4.7 pounds, 4.8, somewhere in there. And you got what? What did I say? 4.5? Yeah, you're over 95% relative weight. You're about right at 100% relative weight. So it depends on where you're at. You know, the fish on the picture of my fish over there that was 5'1", you know, that's a half a pound, more than a half a pound heavier than that's also bias. We have to understand the bias there. It's a fish on a feeder, and these fish were not, these fish were taken from public water. These measurements were measured off public water fish and not fish hyped up, jacked up on trout and feed like I've got. So we would expect me to be hunting over 100% relative weight because my fish are at a significant advantage to these fish. And that's what this is for. You know, we're just using it as a frame of reference. I'm not saying all bass 20-inch bass should weigh 4.5 pounds. I'm saying you have a 20-inch bass, just like he says, is that a good weight? As a frame of reference, yes, that's a good weight. If it was, you know, less than 95% of that, you know, and I've seen bass that go way lower. Like, let's go out to the 25-inch fish on my chart here shows 9.3, but I've seen plenty of 25-inch bass that are 7.5. So you see how much further under that weight they can be and how very poor that is. So when you're pulling 25-inch bass that are like 7.5, 8 pounds, and they're like 1.3 pounds under the standard weight, that's giving you a big clue as to what's going on in your fishery. Yeah. Well, you know, I would say that track your Hudson River bass, right? Is it a one-off? Are all the rest of them under? I bet it's not, though, because usually when you've got one fish, especially a fish like that at 100%, all of them will be. And I don't want to make that assumption off one catch, right? The more catches I get, the more data I have. But if that's your first measurement and it's right at 100%, that's a real good sign. You've got a healthy bass fishery. Just keep tracking it. You'll also see too, maybe the 20-inch fish are looking good, but like the 15s and under aren't, right? So it'll give you an idea of the health of each size class of fish, not just the general relative health of the entire fishery. People are just clicking on and off on Instagram. They're not paying any attention to that. And that's fine. All right, boys, I'm getting itchy. So I'm going to get off. But that was my public service announcement and our little short fish talk for the day. Glad I could wrap it up talking fishing. And shout out to G Crack again. Much thanks. Much love for those boys. And I'll be back. I didn't get to go fishing last night. I'm going to try to go tomorrow. I took the day off of work. I don't want to drive with Benadryl and drugs in me and stuff like that. Just taking her easy. Yeah, anytime, Mike. I might slide down right now as the sun's going down, maybe run a surface plug. Yeah, you guys have a good one. And I'll talk to you tomorrow night.